Are you feeling frustrated with yourself? You're maybe going to therapy or you've been to therapy, you were doing well, and then all of a sudden something happened. And it's like you ran into this wall, or there was something within you that insisted, maybe even screamed at you, you can't do this. You cannot make this work. This isn't going to work for you. And so now, yeah, you would feel frustrated, maybe even angry at yourself, wondering what is going on, why it is that you keep trying to change, you keep trying to get healing, and just seem to never be able to get to the place where you want before you run into this wall that stops you from going any further. It is really sad when this happens because then you blame yourself that something is wrong with you. You think, oh, maybe I didn't really want to change. Maybe I really didn't want that healing. Like you didn't want it badly enough. And sometimes, truthfully, therapists can look at you the same way. They can say, well, you're not going any further. You're just quitting because you didn't really want to change. You didn't really totally want this healing. Well, I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want you to stay stuck in that place of feeling like a failure, blaming yourself, possibly even feeling angry at your counselor, your therapist, because they didn't understand you or they were pushing you too hard or whatever. So I want you to be able to move beyond that place and to understand what it is that really is going on inside of you when you feel like you hit that wall that stops you from pursuing more healing. I'm going to help you to turn those feelings of self-condemnation into something that you can actually work with instead of being stuck where you are. Well, let me tell you a little bit about who I am so you know where I am coming from with what I'm going to be telling you. My name is Tanya Kordenbrock. I am an online emotional wholeness coach. Now, for years, I worked as a licensed professional counselor in my own private practice, and saw a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And it's only through my training in trauma, working with people who have had traumatic experiences and significantly painful events in their lives and how that impacts them, that I've been able to gain an understanding of how to work through this thing that can be called resistance in therapy. If you are new here, please let me know that you're here. Say hi, tell me a little bit about yourself, what your struggle is. But also be sure to subscribe so that you can receive more of these life-renewing teachings. And stay tuned till the end because I have a free resource for you that has to do with emotional healing. I'm going to start us out now with sharing with you a little bit of a story from the Bible. And this is found in the book of John, chapter 5, beginning at verse 1. So it begins like this. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, meaning having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after the stirring of the water, was made well of whatever disease that he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. So that's a long time that this man was ill. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he already had been in that condition for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" Now, some people do get quite unsettled with these verses and how Jesus asked that question of him. But it doesn't bother me because I know how compassionate Jesus is and that he was looking out for this man. He really wanted to help him. And so the way I look at this is that before Jesus went to heal the man, and he did heal him, by the way, but before he did heal him, he asked him, "Do you really want to be healed?" And sometimes therapists can look at you and say the same thing, like, "Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to stop this destructive behavior? Do you really want to change? Do you really want healing?" So what is going on here? I think when Jesus was asking this, that he knew, and because Jesus knows what kind of change can happen in your life when you receive healing. And things that the way your life used to work and things that you used to rely on, that you could count on, all that comes along. It's all a package deal. It comes along with the way that you have learned how to function within your woundedness. And so if you are going to take care of the woundedness, get healing from that, and see change come from that healing, then everything else is also going to shift in your life. So I think Jesus was asking him, do you really want your life to shift? Do you want this change to come as a result of your healing? And I see this with the members in my Mastering Emotions program. It's an online program that I have that, for instance, one woman I'm thinking of, I'll call her Michelle. She came into the program and was dealing with, she would get just highly upset when someone disagreed with her, especially with her husband or her in-laws and close friends, that family members, that she would just shut down, and she would become depressed and condemning of herself, just talk really nasty to herself, beating herself up. She'd be very tearful and really, really angry, just really angry, and not able to move herself out of this place of all being tied up in all of these emotions, to be able to say what it was that she needed to say to people who had hurt her, or to be able to clarify what was going on. But she would just be like, all these emotions would just pile upon her, hold her down, hold her captive, keep her stuck. And when she came into the program, we were looking at how this developed in her, this way of coping from woundedness that had occurred in her life years and years ago, and how it was playing out in her life today. So we worked on her developing an awareness of when her response pattern was arising, and she began to make changes to this pattern. And it was really exciting because she was seeing changes occur in some of her relationships, and in how she addressed the hurts that were occurring, the misunderstandings that were occurring. So she was beginning to feel like there was hope for her. She was beginning to feel really proud of herself. I was feeling proud of her. It was a good place for her to be in. She was making some good progress there. But then, as she's seeing this progress, suddenly something happened. She began to withdraw. She began to pull away from the program. She wasn't communicating with me. She wasn't watching any of the training materials. She wasn't doing any of the work that's involved in the program. And I reached out to her, tried to get a hold of her to say, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about this. Because when this occurs, it actually is very normal. Can feel alarming, can feel like what's going on, can feel like this is my signal that this isn't going to work, that I need to run away, that I need to escape, that I need to go back to the way that I was living. It was safe. It was what I knew. I felt secure in it. And so when I reached out to her and explained to her, okay, what we need to do is we need to slow down and we need to look at what is going on inside of you right now. So as she came back into the program, began talking with me some more, communicating with me some more. And we did a one-on-one focus call and looked at what it was going on inside of her. And what we really looked at were the parts of the self. And I don't know if you're aware of this, that we all have parts to us. And the way I like to explain it, that I think is a little more understandable, is, for instance, if a friend invites you to go out to a movie. And this is, of course, not during the time of quarantine that we're having right now, but you may feel like, oh, I really would like to go out with that friend. I really would like to go see that movie. But at the same time, there's a part of me that would just like to stay home and veg out, relax on the couch, maybe watch my show, my series that I've been binging through. And so you have these two parts, this part that wants to go and this part that wants to stay home. Well, the same thing can happen to us in emotional situations and how we respond to life's situations, our hurts and disappointments, our fears. And there can be a part of you that, for instance, wants to speak up and to say what's going on and what you need. But there can also be this part of you that says, shut up, don't say anything. They don't care about what you think. Nobody cares. Nobody will believe you. They will think you're lying. They will think you're too emotional. They're not going to do anything about it anyway. So you can have those two parts of you. And how did these parts develop? Well, these parts develop from wounds from your past, from not feeling like you were heard, not feeling like you were safe, not feeling like you were loved. And so in order to cope with this part of you, this wounded part of you, developed this way of functioning, these coping mechanisms that are now your response patterns. So they are, if you begin going on a journey of healing, a journey of change, just like Michelle did in my program, then it can feel like all of a sudden your crutches are being pulled out from underneath of you, because these coping mechanisms that you have been so used to using all of these years are no longer there. So what has to happen? Well, first of all, you have to realize that you are learning new ways of coping, and you have to realize that this is going to get for you out of life more than what your old coping mechanisms were doing, which is, the reason why you are getting help in the first place, because they weren't working out so well. But then also, the wounded parts of yourself have to be reassured that you are going to be safe, because these wounded parts are going to be very, very fearful of what is going to happen if you ignore them, if you just go on like everything is okay now, because these wounded parts need to know, how will I be loved in this new world? How will I be heard? How will I be seen? What happens if you continue on in this journey of healing and change, and then I discover that I really am unlovable? What if I discover that I really am so messed up that I can't ever be acceptable, that I won't ever be able to make life work the way that I want it to work? What if I find out that I'm just too much? I'm too emotional. I'm too needy for people to be able to be there for me. So when you go on this journey of healing, then this wounded part within you is going to be terrified of what your life is going to look like on the other side of healing. Now, these wounded parts are what are going to, they become that brick wall that you come up against, and they become that part of you that screams at you, run away, run away, run away, and as fast as you can, because these wounded parts need to be reassured that things are going to be okay, that you do have a means of being safe, of feeling heard, of being seen, and of being loved and accepted. How do you do that? How can you make that happen? Well, in my Mastering Emotions program, I outline for you how different exercises that you can do in order to speak to and address those wounded parts of the self. But mainly what you are trying to gain is with that reassurance. It has to start with you, that wounded part within you trusts you as the adult you. So the child part of you that was wounded so long ago has to know that you have got her back, that you are taking care of her, that you are looking out for her. And sure, the adult part of you may not know exactly what all this is going to look like. You may not know how things are going to turn out. You may not know how long this journey is going to be. But what you can know is you are on a journey. You aren't going to be perfect, but you are learning. And this is a very powerful thing to tell your inner self, that you are learning, that you have resources to learn. If that's with my members, that is one thing that they can say. Now, I am in a program with Tanya Cordenbrock, who is trained in trauma therapy. And I have this program, and I can reach out to her when I need her. I am getting guidance from her. If I feel lost, then she can guide me. She can let me know the direction I need to go in. So you don't have to have all of the answers. And you can reassure this part of you that, you're in therapy, or you're getting coaching, or you have other resources such as books that you are reading that are guiding you right now. So you can reassure that wounded part with that. And also you can let her know that you see her, that you understand her fear, especially considering the background that you have had and how fearful it is, how much danger you used to be in. You can let her know how safe it is now, that you are looking out for her, that you are providing a safe environment. You are being careful of people who do not treat you well. You're not allowing, or you're learning to not allow people who aren't safe to be in your life. So those are some things that you can do to reassure her, reassure that wounded part of you, kind of like sometimes we refer it to that little girl part of you, that that you are taking care of her, that you have more skills now, you have more power now than she had when you were small, when you were a child. Also, that wounded part of you, she needs to know that others care, that others can be trusted. So you can reassure her of that. And then lastly, even if everybody, the people around you aren't perfect, you can let her know there are these good points, that her husband cares for her in these ways, and lay it out. Here's what he does that shows that he cares, even though he's not perfect, even though he does hurt you at times, even though you have misunderstandings at times, even though he doesn't always hear you. You can reassure her of those parts, of those things that he does do. And then lastly, that wounded part of you needs to know that God can be trusted. This is the biggest part of healing. To know that God is there for this wounded part of you, that God cares, that he sees you, that he hears you, that he is powerful, he's trustworthy in that power, that he is safe. And that takes some extended work that you will need to do, and it can be really terrifying. So I recommend that you do definitely have professional help when you are working on that wounded part of yourself, especially when you get to the place of when you are working on whether God is there for her or not. So if you have pursued healing in the past, or you're currently doing it, and you have run into this brick wall or this place where you just became terrified that you couldn't move any further and that you needed to run away from the program that you were in or from the help that you were receiving, I don't want you to feel ashamed of that. I don't want you to feel like something's wrong with you, or that you didn't really want healing, you didn't really want to change, because that's not true. A part of you did want healing, does want healing. A part of you does want to see change in your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be watching this video right now, this teaching. You would not have even gone to therapy in the past or received coaching, because that just proves that there is a part of you that does want the change. However, there is also that part of you that has that wounded, that's still wounded, that is afraid that it will be forgotten, that it is afraid that you can't be trusted to really take care of her, or to hear her fears, to see her, how she has been wounded, to keep her safe. So that part of you will need to be reassured that you are on a solid pathway to receive the healing that she needs and that you need, and that there are some people around you who do indeed care and who can help you along the way. And also remind her of the truths that you do know about God. Yes, you can have, a part of you that isn't totally sure about God, like up here that he loves you and that you should be able to trust him, but still acknowledging this wounded part of yourself that isn't totally on board with that yet. But you can grab onto the truths of Scripture to help that wounded part of yourself to heal. Now, as I said earlier, I do have a free resource for you, and this is my 4 steps to emotional healing, and I hope that you will take advantage of that. Please do share this with others and let them know, because there are so many people who are seeking healing and they are so afraid, or they do not know of the proper resources, especially if you have had significant hurts in your past. Then you do need help with someone who has been trained in dealing with trauma and really painful hurts. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. Bye now.